So I think the powers that be from the right wing are actually trying to exclude us from these conversations because it actually stops ordinary human beings connecting with their deeper inner power, as we are all meant to do, and find ourselves liberated to express power in this world which is against the authority figures and those figures that seek to control the material world in ways which do not benefit the general population. So this is where we're starting from, not just as expressions of gender being localized to a few people and it's a few personal problems of a few people. This is a problem for the whole of the human race that we all need to face, an issue of empowerment, an issue of liberation for all. So I'm going to hand over to my friend Shokti now to take on the conversation from there, and then I'll pick up again. We'll talk for about 20 minutes, maybe quarter of an hour, and then have a little discussion after that. Thank you, Miqui. Thank you, Miqui. Everybody hearing me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, I'm Shokti, part of the Queer Dome crew here at Small One for the last 4 or 5 years. Absolutely addicted to this festival as soon as I got here. For 20 to 30 years I've been part of communities where we seek connection to nature, we seek to liberate ourselves internally, get in touch with the spirit within and the spirit that connects us all. And when I came here I felt, this is a place of liberation, this is a place where the spirit works and moves and people grow. The rainbow, for example, is not simply an LGBTQ symbol, is it? It's a symbol of liberation for all people. So I believe I'm in a space, and I'm happy to be part of a space where people are accepting, tolerant, open-minded, and here to learn and expand. So I have to tell you, I had a little shock at 6:30 this morning when I had to suddenly get out of my tent to make that rush across the pilgrimage, early morning pilgrimage across the field. When I went into one of the brand new, lovely cubicles down there, new graffiti started to appear. I found a very disappointing piece of graffiti in there, 6:30 this morning, half asleep. 3 tick boxes. First tick box was male, second tick box was female, third tick box was mentally ill. I plan to take a pen and go back down there and cross that out and replace that mentally ill with the word divine. Which paradigm do we want to live in? We're part of this alternative subculture. Do we want to live in a materialist biological paradigm of which the roots of which are the misogynist, homophobic Christian tradition? Do we want to perpetuate that shit? No. Or are we going to acknowledge that here we are part of the people exploring the shift of the ages, the shift of paradigm, away from a materialist culture into a metaphysical, multi-dimensional, spiritual reality? That's what I'm here to do. If we look at those parts, if we look at the magical traditions of the world, if we look at the Eastern religions of the world that didn't have this patriarchal dominance in the same way we had in the West, if we look at the indigenous cultures of Africa, of North America, of South America, of Australia, we can see that those cultures that were so in touch with the earth spirit did not have an issue with people of the same gender having erotic relations with each other and loving each other. They did not have an issue with people who embodied both masculinity and femininity. In fact, they understood that your external body was not necessarily going to be the same as your internal gender. And if that was the case, then you were special. You were seen as having special qualities that were about being healers for the community, being connectors to the spirit, being leaders of ritual, being shamans of medicine plants, being the wise beings of the community. So in the Western world, with the advent of Christianity, the first thing that happened in the Roman Empire, the 320s, was they sent an army to Lebanon, modern Lebanon, to wipe out this temple of Venus that was notorious for all its gender fluid femme priestesses. This great sex temple of where Venus was celebrated. They went and destroyed that temple. They started destroying the memory of the Western culture of the spiritual role of trans people, which at that time was spread throughout the Mediterranean, throughout the Middle East. It was the way things had always been. Now what's going on in this world? Our Western culture has got so obsessed with the binary, spent 1,000 years really trying to suppress the feminine in men, the feminine men, keep them out of the picture, suppress the masculine women. There's been no space for in-between people, but these are natural parts of our human nature. Yeah. We can see that from other cultures around the world, and we can see that in our culture, this wants to come back. This energy is coming back strong because we're so out of touch with what is natural. And because, yes, this energy is spiritual. This energy points to us all that we are all male and female and something else. That we are all spirit. And spirit works through the dance of the masculine and the feminine, the Shiva and the Shakti, the yin and the yang. All these traditions are there to teach us how to understand human nature. Science, biology, materialism, psychology, they do not teach us how to understand human nature. They perpetuate the patriarchal divide. So I hope Small World will be a place where trans people and queer people of all kinds will always be welcome, feel at home, feel celebrated. And let's encourage everyone to see, it's actually in every woman, there's the potential to love other women. I think women accept that. Yeah. I think they mostly accept that. Yeah, there's sisterhood. We can love each other if we want to. Amongst men, that idea of all men loving each other gets restricted to certain places, cults, clubs, teams, sports, armies. But the general, that every man has the ability to love all other men. Community of brothers across the world wants that in peace. That doesn't get acknowledged. Nor does it get acknowledged that we are all essentially a balance of masculine and feminine in our bodies, in our emotions, in our minds, in our spirits. It's the union of the two and the transcendent beyond. That's what trans people are here to teach us.
So these lessons, these learnings are fundamental to our everyday lives of each one of us. Each one of us is hoping to have a loving relationship with either one or more human beings. And each one of us encounters this in our personal relationships as we discover our true nature through interacting either in a sexual way or in a friendship way with other people. We start to find who we are in our interactions with other human beings. This is a person-to-person thing that every one of us goes through in every one of our lives. And these teachings of the very binary nature and the very hierarchical nature of human relationships actually restricts us from finding out our true potential. So these messages that come through the media these days about trying to conform and go back to old traditional family values actually attempts by the powers that be who control this world and who control the media to actually restrict us back into smaller roles than they wish us to have, so that we then do not have the personal power in order to challenge these structures that govern our human nature in everyday life. And festivals like this at Small World and other places where we can find out how to discover our power, our way of doing things, the DIY culture that doesn't come from I need authority to do something. This actually empowers us to actually find out a better way to live outside of festivals, outside of these spaces, and we take this back home with us into wherever we are. So I ask us all to take this message back to wherever we're going to after this festival, to say to people, there are other ways of living that are more free, that are not taught in the everyday newspapers or in the everyday TV and radio messages, and think about why we get those messages. Why are these things being pushed back onto us to behave again? Why are these things being pushed back onto us to restrict our lives again? What is the purpose behind that? It's to keep us in cages, to stop us being free. And when we find that freedom, we will live lives that are so much more enriching, that will put us in contact with each other as human beings, where we'll discover parts of ourselves that we never knew we had before, that will enrich our lives, enrich ourselves, enrich each other, and enrich society as a whole, and eventually actually help us care for this planet better, because we are also not divorced from loving this planet, loving this whole existence, loving this whole creation in a deep and meaningful way. And all these things that are sent to separate us from the love of creation, the love of caring for each other, the love of caring for the world. So these things go way beyond just this gender anarchy explosion, which is potentially happening now. Please help that to happen in whatever way you wish to. But then remember, the purpose of this gender anarchy explosion is to help the liberation of all people, liberation of all the planet, liberation of all of us here today and into the future. So that's where I'm going to end for now, because we've gone over about a quarter of an hour, approaching 20 minutes. And I'm going to open up a little discussion, if you wish to contribute by either asking questions or making comments yourself. You may have your own viewpoints of what this means for you, and we're going to unhook this and see if people want to actually speak who's sitting here, or even passers-by as you pass by, if you want to actually say any comments. So let me reach out now.
Thank you, Miqui.
And
Thank you,
see if there's
Shokti.
anyone here who wants to come forward and maybe